All right, so I'll go ahead and start that. What I'll do then is I'll actually start and kind of walk through a couple of different pieces, give a higher level, I guess, overview of all of the different roles in the industry that we play. Um, Let me just ask you guys, if you have questions, if things pop up, I prefer for my presentations or my sessions with folks to be much more interactive and engaging. So feel free, stop me, ask questions. If there's a how would this work or how might you interact with somebody else kind of question, please do bring that up. With with that said, then where I'm actually going to start is on this is just our public webpage, just the safarimontage.com webpage. And the reason I want to point this out is because, what you guys specifically asked about initially here is the component that we consider our video streaming library. Inside of there is going to be all of the individual publishers that you can subscribe to and have delivered out to your classrooms and to your students, whether they be mobile devices or desktop PCs, whatever. But this is kind of where the biggest competition for us exists in the industry. So with that, I would just point out two exclusivities that we have. We're an exclusive partner with PBS in educational distribution. We're an exclusive partner with Disney Media, Disney Educational Production. And then we're also an exclusive distributor of Schlesinger Media inside of that. Other than that, some of the other packages that you guys may be looking at, there's probably a lot of similar licensees or licensed products that are inside of there. Everything that Safari packages is going to come pre-made with what's called metadata. I'll give an example of that when I'm inside of here, but so we're kind of on the same page. If you push the info button on a remote control on a cable box at home, and it says, Pawn Stars was on the History Channel at 8 o'clock at night on channel 300, that's going to be metadata. In our world, what that means for me is I'm going to tell you that Bill Nye did a dissection of the heart video that's appropriate for kids, in 1st through 8th grade, and it may align with these state standards, or it may help you with these Common Core objectives, that kind of stuff. So that's going to be something that you can immediately expect from all content that you would buy from us, all of the published licensed stuff. The learning object repository piece, then, the green box here on the website, that's basically where we say, well, if we're distributing and managing the Bill Nye videos or the Schlesinger videos or the Khan Academy stuff, why shouldn't we also let teachers and maybe students, depending on how you want to do it, upload their materials side by side? So if I search for a lesson aligned to a state standard, or if I search for a professional development topic on, X, Y, or Z, I want to be able to see that Bill Nye video lined up right next to Mr. Johnson's class, and I want to see the field trip video or the lecture capture that he did and he uploaded, or maybe the test or the PowerPoint that he made for this topic. I want all of that material to come back in my search. So with that, our storage capability and our distribution of the things that you make in-house, those are going to be part of our object repository. The other piece down here at the corner, this IPTV and live media, what that's going to do is basically let me make the statement, if you have a live video source, and I don't want you to think just cable TV or satellite dish, but think of maybe an iPad with a video camera on it. Think of an Android device. Think of a Sony Handycam, like a video camera or something like that. Any live piece of media, including security cameras or lecture capture cameras, I can distribute those throughout the infrastructure. I normally start with telling people to think of Safari as basically the back-end infrastructure of digital media. It's the exact same as, when you pick up your telephone and you get a dial tone, AT&T is providing that dial tone. AT&T's job is to get your voice from one place to another. That's the same thing that Safari does in an environment. We manage the media from one point to another. I don't care necessarily who made the media or whether it's recorded or live. My job is just to distribute it and maintain the integrity of rights and all that kind of stuff. As far as the learning platform piece, this is something that I'll touch on then with you guys, but it may not be exactly where you're focused right now. What this is our migration into sort of the world of learning management systems. This is where I allow people to start giving context to individual PowerPoint files or video recordings or live media events. I start facilitating people saying, you know, if I put all of these things together topically, I create digital lessons. I can extend a digital lesson to a student at home, and I can really start dabbling into the whole flipped learning model. I can manage assignments and feedback and submission. The other piece that we usually start to talk about is this thing called IMS Global Interoperability. Let me ask, have you guys ever heard of the IMS Global Foundation? Nada? Okay. So just for the sake of at least introducing these folks to you, their public website, just imsglobal.org. But what this is a learning consortium that is made of school districts around the country. And these folks have basically come together and said to the vendors, right? So Safari, Discovery, Learn360, all these different vendors that are out there. They go, hey guys, listen. We operate with all of you in our space. We operate with Brain Honey and My Big Campus or Edmodo. We use all of you guys because our teachers need you for different reasons. There's very rarely an instance where one vendor or one manufacturer suits all of our needs, and we like that. So what we need you to do is be able to exchange data with one another. We need our teachers to be able to log in one place and have a single sign-on between two platforms. If I store a piece of media in one platform, I need to be able to pull that learning object or that piece of media into another platform. And what I'm looking at here, just so you guys see it, under the leadership and members section, this is basically a list of all of the different partners that have behind the scenes said, yeah, I'll exchange my data with somebody else and we'll make it a simplified process. So Desire to Learn, for example, has said, sure, I'll get with Elsevier Education and we'll be able to exchange the metadata. I'll maintain the integrity and the rights without making it complicated. And just for the sake of showing you that we're on here, same thing with us. We've basically said, fine, if I need to make sure that I can get my materials down to a Samsung device, then this is how I'm going to do it, because this organization sets the standards, sets the baseline for protocols and how everybody talks to each other. Does all of this stuff so far make sense to you guys and kind of how it all fits together in our world?
It does, but I still have some questions about how it equates to universal access with our mobile devices and our current resources.
Okay. Do you want to ask now, or do you want to hold for?
Share with us how we would be able to access your services on BYOD type resources.
So let me start answering that as I kind of navigate into a dashboard here. So this is my Safari login screen. Everything on the Safari platform happens within a web interface. It's basically all designed to act within a web browser. So I generically can make the statement to customers, as long as you have a device that has a web browser on it, I can get content down to that. Now, I've also got an individual app that I can push data to and all that kind of stuff, like on iPads or whatever you want to use. But the general statement here is all resources managed in a central library or a central catalog, I can distribute out to all devices that connect to that. Part of what I have to be able to do behind the scenes in order to make that statement is that I also can auto-convert media behind the scenes. So if a teacher uploads a high-def video, for example, that you need to get out to your mobile devices, I'm going to down-convert that video into a format and a bit rate that makes sense for you to get across that network. If I'm talking about live stream distribution or live TV management, then I'm going to have a conversation with you about setting up multicasting on your network. I'm going to have a conversation with you about setting up an RTP or an RTMP server in your environment. Does that start to address kind of what you're thinking?
Well, it does to a degree. It sounds like extra hardware on our end to support. So I'm trying to figure out though how I can make sure that without really stressing teachers or students out, that they are going to be able to get easy access to your content. Could you give us just kind of brief details that if I came in with a iPhone versus an Android device versus a Windows mobile device, that they're all going to be in the classroom trying to access your content through your web page and not have to be calling the IT department to figure out what kind of plugins or software are needed to make it work?
Yep. So let me first start by making sure that we're clear on kind of how our infrastructure is designed. We are a localized server appliance on your network. So there, with our platform, there would quite literally be a Safari appliance that's inserted into your IDF or your switch room or wherever you want to put it, but we exist locally on your LAN. So to address your question about the plugins and whatnot, there is a Safari Montage Media Player plugin that comes along with our product. You don't have to use that plugin. And let me actually just jump into a piece of content here and show you kind of what that does or what its intention is. If I look for, let's just stick with a video for a second. If I were to take a video from Safari and I were to begin playing that video, what you'll notice happen up here in the corner is that my player, the Safari Montage player, is going to not only allow me the controls to play that video and go full screen and all that stuff, just like QuickTime or Windows Media would do, but it's also going to let me keep, for example, the controls to the other devices in my classroom. So if I've got a projector in my room, for example, that I want to control, my player is going to keep those controls front and center for me. If I wanted, let's say I had a resource that had closed captioning associated with it specifically, or maybe a second language track. If I load this video, then the other thing you're going to notice down here is that my player is also facilitating me navigating those items, right? So I can real-time switch between English and Spanish here, and I can real-time toggle with the closed captioning. That player, this plugin, is able to be basically packaged up into an MSI file and then distributed to all devices on your network through a group policy push. If for whatever reason you don't want to use the player, or you can't push it, or for some reason we choose not to use it, everything in Safari is designed basically to run on the QuickTime player or a VLC player library. So what that means is I can send video or other materials out across the network through HTML5 interface, and they're still going to play within your individual browsers.
Okay, so what I thought I heard you say was, if somebody shows up with an Android device on a wireless network, they don't have to have instructions for downloading a plugin because it'll be coming across from whatever native format their device works with.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
But yeah, when we tried to do that with our computers here, I think we ran into problems because they kept asking for plugins when we were just using a desktop computer.
Well, so that's going to be part of something that we would see, right? And here's one of the big reasons. You're logging in with that demo account, and frankly, this is why we really discourage people from demoing on a remote server, on a cloud-hosted server, because that server is going to request that you download the plugin and that you install that plugin on whatever machine you're trying to watch it on. Now, we can turn that prompt off on the server end so that a customer or client doesn't always receive it. And part of the problem that you guys encounter is that all of your teachers may not have admin privileges, right? All of your folks may not be able to install the plugin to actually watch that resource. So what we like to do is localize this and then decide with you how you want the media to be pushed.
Okay, so if the issue was that somebody was at home trying to watch content because it's part of an online assignment, that we could set it up that doesn't force them to download the plugin.
Correct. Right. Our demo server is not configured that way because we generally want people to see all of the features of that plugin. I want them to see the closed caption toggle and all that kind of stuff. I mean, frankly, because it's a selling point for us, right? I mean, it's a navigation tool.
Okay, I'm just glad to know that we can turn that off so it's not necessarily an obstacle. Because what we don't want to get is a whole bunch of phone calls from people saying, it's not working, I got to have the kids, it says install this plugin. Right. And they're going, I don't know how to take it.
Well, and that's, just so you know, that's also one of the advantages of us doing sort of deployments as a local server model, because that also allows me to use my logic differently inside your network than outside the network. I can basically say, well, inside the network, I've got X amount of throughput. I'm going to send a higher bitrate stream, or I'm going to send a higher quality stream to the mobile devices. But if somebody requests it from outside, they're going to get sort of a down converted or a downgraded version because I need to make sure that I don't choke my pipe going outside of the network. The same thing happens with the identification logic. When an Android device connects to the server inside, I'm going to know that an Android device is trying to talk to me, and I'm going to appropriately select the file format I need to distribute to that device.
Okay, hey, listen, we can talk about the technology and stuff like that later on. How about if we go to the demonstration of how the service actually works with videos of features?
Sure. Yep, absolutely. So guys, when I log into the main page here, what you'll notice is that there's a couple of things that are pointed out to me. Number one, Safari knows who I am and ideally where I exist in the environment. This is all done through an Active Directory or an LDAP hookup. So basically, the same username and password that you would use, say, to access your email becomes the same username and password that you use to access Safari. As I scroll through this dashboard, a few things, become worth pointing out. Number one, if you've got that learning platform piece turned on, then what I'm going to see here are the different classes and the different lessons that I may have associated with me as a teacher or me as a student, depending on who's logged in for that given semester. With the teacher's view or the administration, the other thing that you'll notice is that I have the ability to create assignments and that I can see which kids have turned in or are still awaiting those individual assignments. So I'll come back to this and I'll talk to that a little bit more. I just want to kind of point out what's going on from the point that I first log in. Because it's a personalized dashboard or a personalized profile experience, the other things that you'll notice up here are the playlists and the recent media. Basically, what's going on here is this is just sort of like my history of everything that I've most recently worked on, and playlists are typically where people look at topical matters inside of Safari. So this is anything that I've said is related to my third grade science period, for example, or is related to my unit on metamorphosis or my unit on Van Gogh and a particular art period. Those are going to be referred to as playlists in Safari. The Lore Exchange piece right here, this is also going to start showing me a history of the resources or the items that I've accessed. But I'm going to reference this again when I'm searching for content or material, because what this is going to do is show me all of the resources that are not inside of my district or not really in-house that may also meet my criteria. The Lore Exchange is our reach into sort of a cloud-based repository where districts can share resources with each other. So whether those are individual files, like, whether they're images or movie files or web pages, or whether they're entire lesson plans, those are things that the Exchange is designed to facilitate and distribute between districts. The resources and portal links section down here, this is designed for me to basically give my teachers a launch pad for any other resource or any other web tool or drive that they may use inside of our environment. So if we've got a single sign-on, for example, built with a company or a product like Canvas, then I've got that on my dashboard and my teacher can get right there without logging in again from Safari. Even if we don't necessarily have single sign-on built. So take, for example, Edmodo. Edmodo is not part of that standards organization I was talking about, but what I can do is I can give my teachers a centralized place that they can get to outside resources, all from this authenticated portal. The other nice thing about that is that I can see what resources they've clicked on or what resources they've accessed. So this, the big value here, a lot of times districts have kind of a central web page where teachers can just bookmark it in their browser, and then that's how they can get to all their different resources. But what it doesn't necessarily show you is the analytics. I don't see usage tracking, and that's what we're trying to facilitate on this page. The NDVR piece can actually couple up with our digital TV and IPTV section. And if I do that, what I'm starting to do is not only offer folks a way to distribute live media, but I can overlay a channel guide on top of it. So for example, I can have different cameras in here. Right now for the demo, I've got just TV stations, ABC and Fox and whatnot, but I could just as easily have the principal's camera or the school news camera or the boardroom public address, whatever it happens to be. And I can either play that or I can choose to record that thing, for a later time. What's nice about the recording capability is that if something is going to be airing on any of these channels, or even if my camera is going to be filming like a graduation ceremony or a sporting event, I can record that and I can use it in a lesson at a later time. It's going to fall into that same library or the same catalog as all of my other resources. If I go into the search function then inside of Safari, now this, with that demo account that you guys would have or those credentials, this is pretty much the only thing that you'll be able to explore on your own, is the actual search and the navigation of content. So if I go into the search section, notice I've got a number of search criteria over here on the left-hand side. What this is going to allow me to do is not only go through and say, hey, I'm looking specifically for something with closed captioning or whatever it happens to be, but I can identify things with teachers' guides or quizzes associated with them. I can also specifically say, I want to see only the things that I've uploaded into here. That's a search within my files or my own little catalog. If I wanted to see the things, for example, that my science department has uploaded or that Sean has uploaded on behalf of a greater team, in my example, I can actually allow different groups of people in my organization to become publishers and sort of upload or add their own things into the library on behalf of a group. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah, it'd be better if we could follow along, but we can't log into our demo account.
Here, give me a half second. Let me see if.
Thank you.
What do you remember the credentials that you guys were given?
Yes, your email, and then it's Safari one, I believe.
Really? I never got that.
Demo2.safarimontage.com is the URL. The username was scottcolantonio@hcsd.org, and the password was Safari1.
All right, so I'm pulling up the, actually, you know what, since I'm working on, for the time being, let me just give you an account on my server right here, and we'll literally be looking at the same content and all that kind of stuff. All right, so guys, what I'm doing is I'm going to create a username just called test1, and the password is login, just login.
Which server are they going to?
And this address, so where you guys had demo2.safarimontage.com, just change the 2 to a 3, so it'll be demo3.safarimontage.com.
And what was the credential?
It was test one and log on. Log in or log on?
Was the password log in or log on?
Log in, login.
Log,
The test one.
That's one. And then log in. Right.
Oh, yeah, you're not in the right spot. Can I see? No, just go, just leave it there.
And it looks like you guys got in okay, right? Because I show you as being online now.
nope, no, username or password is incorrect.
I'm in,
Test one, do you have a space in there?
nope, test one, and then log in.
I was gonna say I know at least somebody's logged in under that profile.
No, maybe it's.
You're on demo3.rmontage.com, correct?
Yeah. Login, PHP. Log in here.
Yep. And then I just typed it in for me.
Test one program, I think.
Yeah, that's how I did it.
Okay, there we go. Okay.
My page didn't look the same as yours.
I'm there. I'm in. Test one.
Yep, that's the old one.
Okay.
Oh, hang on, I have
Yeah, I think we're getting ready, Sean.
Okay, just let me know when you're in.
Okay, we're ready.
We're in.
You're good? Alrighty. So guys, what you're going to be able to do, you'll be able to, now that you're logged in, there's going to be a few differences between what I see and what you see. And for example, my dashboard is populated because I have a profile built, right? So it knows that Sean Wilson has classes that are assigned to it. It knows that I teach classes and that I've got different assignments and all that. For you guys, none of this is probably available, right? This is all just kind of blank.
Yep.
Under the search tab, though, you should be able to run a search for all of the same type of content that I can search for. So what I'm going to do, just for the demonstration purpose, I'm going to run just a blank search. I'm just going to leave this box blank and hit my search box, my search button. And what that does for me is it's going to bring back all of the resources that I have on my demo server. And then the other box that's not populated yet, but you'll notice down here, is this lore exchange box. So normally at this point, what I do is I just mention to folks that, you know, we basically break down all of the content by type and whether it's a resource that's hosted locally or out on the internet. So that's why I host web resources in here as well, web links. And you'll notice that some of these web links, for example, you know, are produced by Scholastic or whoever. But then if I were to go to the exchange, the lore exchange, what that'll do for me is show me resources that I can preview. That's why I've got this cloud button, this cloud play button right here. But they're not yet sitting on my local server. So if you were to download these to your server, or if I were sitting in your district, for example, and I said, oh, I want this PDF file, this Earth is Art file, what I would have to do after I've looked at it and said, yes, I want this thing, is click on the import button from the Exchange. Now, in this case, I'm sort of a consumer of the information. I'm actually ingesting it. I'm taking it from the library. But be aware that you guys could also publish to the library, or you could upload into it as well. The other piece that I would point out to you guys, if I do a search in here just for Fallon, as an example, I've placed inside of here a YouTube video of Jimmy Fallon when Idina Menzel was on his show. And the reason that I usually show this to folks is because, you know, I started off by saying we're a local server, we actually sit in your network and the resources are there in-house and all that kind of stuff. I want you to be aware that we can also manage resources of the public internet. You don't necessarily have to like break copyright or violate the copyright of it and bring the thing in-house. I don't need to download this video, for example, to align it to the state standards for Florida. So what I've done is I've taken this YouTube video. It's still actually hosted out on YouTube. And if I go and I edit it, what you'll see in here is that this is the URL. This is where that video actually lives out in the world. But I've given it my own title, and then I've also applied my own attributes for sharing or rights management or distribution to that thing, to that video. When I was talking about publishing a little bit ago, one of the things I mentioned was that you could upload individually on behalf of a group. Well, this is where I could say, for example, the science department would like you to be aware that this YouTube video is out there, or that this YouTube video matches your description or your search terms. You can add your own description and your own modifiers to that thing as well. And what's cool about this is now that this is in Safari, now that it's being managed in Safari or by Safari, I can actually go in here and I can say who should be able to see it. Do I only want teachers or parents to be able to see it? If I've uploaded a study guide or a quiz or something, do I not want my students to be able to search for that thing? All of those permissions can be managed inside of this as well. And after all is said and done, after I'm done modifying it and I back out of this, the other thing I'll point out with this is that it's going to play this video automatically in full screen for me. So notice it's chopped off like the recommendations and that stuff, and it's chopped off the comments down here. And I now just have this full screen video that I would have found because I was looking for something on a Florida state standard, or because I was looking for something that could help me with the subject on musical arts or musical education. Does all this make sense so far? Are we good? Any questions about these pieces? Because this is the majority of our content and how it's managed and how we find that kind of stuff inside of Safari. So I want to make sure that I spend a little bit of extra time here with you guys since this is your focus. Sometimes I'll get questions from folks about what packages or what titles are in a content package from a publisher. If you guys wanted just a reference list, again, this is just our public webpage, just safarimontage.com. But you'll notice that I've got this content packages button right here. And if I click on that, what you'll see is all of the different packages that you guys could subscribe to. And these then are reflected inside of the Safari database. So I'm going to move from our public web page back over to my search box right here. And you'll notice then that I've got A&E as an option and Bennett Video and all that kind of stuff in here.
So are the packages basically set up where you have a generic collection, or is it a la carte and you go pick what you want and the price varies by what you pick?
It's a little bit of both. And let me give you an example of what I mean by that. We have, as far as the packages selection, notice that I can pick sort of this mixed bag of K through 12 supporting materials or K through 8 supporting materials. And if I select one of these, it'll show you, the number of titles and all that jazz that's inside of it. However, if you say, hey, I also have an art department or a math department or a science department or a language arts department that is particularly interested in using digital resources and having things that are already curated suddenly become available on the server, then you can add those a la carte. So that's what I'm looking at, like down here with the Math School, for example, in the cyber science package. These are a la carte specialty pieces that can be tagged on, or you guys can, in-house go out and curate your own collection. You can say, well, I really like these Google Scholar articles, and I really like, this material that I found on the Smithsonian website or whatever it happens to be. And you can aggregate all of this stuff into the catalog on your own, or you can buy pieces of it pre-curated from us. That's entirely your call.
Sean, do I have
Yes,
the
ma'am.
ability to download your material?
Did you say, do you have the ability to download the material?
Correct.
With some publishers, yes. And here's kind of how that's broken out. If we have a publisher that has said you can retrieve our media from the system, then we're going to show you a download link next to that piece of media. Anything that you put in the system, you can decide whether or not somebody else can download it or can pull it out.
And do you have a
But
format for those, or does it depend on the media?
I'm sorry, I only heard the first part of what about the format?
Yes. Or does it depend on the media? Is there a specific format for downloading, or does it depend on what the media is?
Oh, it'll vary depending on the piece of media. And there's a couple of different ways that this can happen. If somebody like Disney Education has said to us, you can't download the media, the reason that they're doing that is because they want to force anybody who sees their videos or their material to have to enter a username and password. They want to know that that media is being viewed by somebody that's subscribed to it. So the way that you can communicate that to folks is either with a QR code or a permanent link. And you'll notice we auto-generate those inside of here.
Yeah, if I have the QR code printed and my kids scan it with their iPad, they will not have to log in. They'll go right to the video file.
They'll have to log in. They'll have to log in at least once, unless you give them what's called a guest account, which we can also permit. And you'll notice what I've got up here. See how I've got this drop down that says normal or guest? The normal account will force them at least one time to enter a username and password before they can get in to see that piece of media. And the reason that we do that is also for analytics, so that you or an administrator can later say, well, this picture was looked at 4,000 times, it must be useful, or this teacher's resources are popular amongst all the other teachers, maybe we should have this person create more curriculum tools for us or something like that.
Okay, thank you.
For the tech folks that, when we were talking a couple of minutes ago about individual pieces of media inside of here, I also wanted to point out that when I edit that piece of media, one of the things that I can do is I can tell Safari how to categorize it. So I can actually change, in this case, I'm looking at a YouTube video, but if I go over on one of my other servers here, I think I've actually got a video on the Obama inauguration. And what I'll be able to do is basically say, I want to see all of the formats that are available for that video. So when you had asked about the format, notice Safari knows that for this one video, 3 different formats happen to exist. So you can actually identify which of these is going to be moved over the network, and you can force one over the other if you wanted to. Regarding the individual pieces of content then, and what sort of comes inclusive as a package from Safari, if you guys are still on that demo server, and you go in and take a look at, let me grab a video here. You'll notice that each video is going to have its own metadata page associated with it. So this is where I'm going to track things like how long that resource is, or what the running time is, what grade range it's appropriate for, all of that kind of stuff. I can also, inside of here, have Safari show me all of the individual topics or lessons or key concepts that piece of media may help me with. So for example, this video is produced, the one that I'm looking at right now is produced by A&E. Well, you'll notice that video by itself is 48 minutes long. But if I scroll down a little bit lower on the page, then I'm going to see that there are individual segments, like this 9-minute segment, this 7-minute segment, and then there's actually chapters and key concepts farther down below that again are all pre-curated so that you can search just for the individual topic or learning objective that you may need that resource for. So I don't need to fuss through 48 minutes of this. I can just plan for the 9-minute section or the 3-minute section, and then I can create bookmarks or segments, and I can play those things back to back. When I start playing them back to back, that's what I mean when I start talking about a playlist. Because all a playlist is going to let you do, if I jump over here to this tab, notice I've got this vowel combinations playlist. Well, inside of here, I've got images and videos. I've got a 14-minute video, and then I've just got this little image and a second image. All of these things are topically relevant to what my lesson objective is, and I've trimmed them down so that they're on point with my delivery in the classroom. Does that make sense, kind of how I would typically, as a user, go from just searching for something or identifying it to grouping them together into topical items for a playlist?
Yeah, sure. Tagging is wonderful.
Do you guys have any other questions about this piece before I talk quickly about the learning platform side?
You guys have time to, or do you have to get back to your
Well,
building? They have to get back to their building.
Well, I think we've eclipsed our available time. We can we can reschedule for some more time if there's more interest. I appreciate the offer. Our focus has predominantly been on the video side of it. The learning management system might be something that would be viewed as an additional feature that we take a peek at.
Okay.
But I'll just ask, do they have any other questions about what we've seen today or anything specific?
No, and thank you.
Everybody says good. I appreciate your time today. Thank you very much, and we'll be back in touch with you, okay?
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.